Welcome back to the Crotchety Old Bastards channel. Something's got my blood pressure up this week, and that is watching this fiasco on TV about the TrayvonMartin shooting. What a tragedy. Here we have a story of a 17-year-old black kid who's walking down the street coming home from a little shop and stop where he picked up something to drink, and we have a neighborhood watch guy who's walking down the street and he sees this kid coming home and he thinks it's suspicious looking. So he follows him. End result is we have a 17-year-old kid shot dead, and George Zimmerman claiming self-defense, and that's where things go south. Now, I'm not upset about the shooting, although it's a tragedy. These things happen, but what I'm upset about is the liberal bias in the media and how they are attempting to frame this as a vigilante killing, a race killing, and how many people, good people, can believe the crap that's going on. This is just mind-boggling to me. So where does it begin? All right, the bias is evident in the media's portrayal of this whole thing to start with. All right, they're using pictures of this kid when he was 13, this angelic little smiling child who, couldn't obviously hurt anybody or anything. And then they show this picture of Zimmerman, and he's turning, this mad Mexican or Hispanic, and so just by framing the context of using the two pictures, you've already skewed the bias of many, many people. What they fail to show is that the 17-year-old had pictures on his Facebook account that have been taken down since then, showing him, fingers in the air like this, and all gangstered out, and showing that there was an attitude there also. And most 17-year-old boys that I know have an attitude. And if I'm walking down the street and I'm looking at one of them, 9 times out of 10, somebody will say something like, "What are you looking at?" Or "What do you want, old man?" All right? So it's not inconceivable to me that this kid took offense at this guy following him and confronted him. The problem is we don't know the real truth. We don't know what happened. All we have is the media bigotry portrayal of the circumstances. So here we have this angelic little boy and this mean old Mexican, or Hispanic, of Hispanic descent. I'm going to say Mexican, just tongue in cheek, all right, because that's what the media is trying to do. Now, it would have been good enough to have left this alone, allowed the police department to do their investigation, and the fact that they didn't arrest him right away is probably legal, because Florida has a law called Stand Your Ground that basically, from what I understand, says, if you feel that you're in mortal danger, you have the right to use self-defense or even ultimate capital defense to protect yourself. Now, from the police initial investigation, and what Zimmerman told them, he told them that Trayvon apparently attacked him and that broke his nose and was slamming his head into the concrete. So apparently the police had enough evidence to corroborate Zimmerman's story at the time, and after interrogating him, released him. Now, that doesn't mean that the investigation's over. That doesn't mean that they're not going to do anything more. All that means is they don't have enough to physically hold him, and that the investigation, is going to continue. No police department in the world is going to drop a murder investigation and an unjustified homicide shooting because they hate black people. Ain't happening. And especially not in Florida. So, what's happened since then? Well, since nobody knows what the real truth is, you have the racial big mouths like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton coming out of the woodwork talking about how it's this and this, and it's a bigotry in motion. And Jackson even went as far to say that the arrest, confinement, and killing of black men is big business to white people. This is the tempered outlook of a rational person, all right? And you have Al Sharpton, his wannabe sidekick, both down there rabble rousing. C.L. Bryant, the past chairman of the NAACP, and I never thought I'd heard myself say this, but he came right out and said that Jesse Jackson is doing more harm to the black man's cause in America than any shooting of a 17-year-old boy. He called Jackson a racial hustler. I called Jackson a racial terrorist, because that's what they make their bread and butter from. Dr. King, whom apparently Jesse Jackson worked with and traveled with, was a proponent of complete nonviolent response. Now, Jesse Jackson says that he preaches nonviolent response, but how can you say that you're preaching a nonviolent response when you go out and you stir up the multitudes and preach hate and discontent and one-sided relations and bigotry and murder and revenge, and expect there not to be an outpouring? But then he can wash his hands and say, no, I preach nonviolence. What a crock. And this preaching of nonviolence comes out. Who do you have? This big mouth from the nation, from the Black Panthers, who's standing on national TV, and they're talking to him, and he said, we need a military. Every country needs a military, and that's what we are. We're the military to make sure that rights and things are not. He's not a military. I served in the military. The United States Marine Corps is a military organization that was set forth the mission to protect the United States in time of war and peace. All right? This is nothing but a ragtag collection of bigots and racists who want to preach and prey upon people's reactions to things like the Trayvon murder shootings, where he can stoke them up and get that support so that they send money. All right? In addition to that, Louis Farrakhan, the esteemed leader of the Nation of Islam, came out and basically, although he didn't talk in violence terms, they were shrouded in violence terms. He gave this long, windy speech like he always does, and in the end of it, he ended up saying that revenge is coming and it's coming soon. The big mouth from the nation, from the Black Panthers, even went so far as to put a $10,000 bounty on George Zimmerman. Well, luckily the police have arrested this idiot, and hopefully he'll be convicted of attempted murder or something along those lines. We'll see. Did it stop there? No. It gets even worse. You have Spike Lee, the famed Hollywood director, the black director of many movies, come out of the woodwork, and he pays somebody to track down George Zimmerman's address.